From killing his own biological father in the season 4 finale to getting his sister sterilized without her consent, here are some of the reasons why Jamie is deeply hated on Yellowstone. To start off, he was never fully accepted by his family.
You almost everything now. You got the second most powerful office in the state. You got a child and a woman who believes in you.
Jamie might be a sharp-minded, enigmatic person, but that still wasn't enough to get the love of his adopted family. Whether you love him or hate him, there's no doubt he's done some pretty controversial things. The reason behind everyone's dislike for him is not as simple as it sounds. Imagine being adopted by a family, but never being treated like you were an actual part of it. That's kind of the case here too, with everyone not trusting Jamie enough just because he's not John and Evelyn's biological son. Or, in other words, he's not a true Dutton. But what led Jamie to be adopted in the first place? You see, Jamie's adoptive mother was friends with his biological mother, fueling her motive to adopt him. Also, his biological dad subsequently went to prison, leaving Jamie, who was just a baby at that time, all alone. But the main question is, why did John, someone not really popular for his charitable demeanor towards non-biological people, take the boy in? The reason isn't entirely clear, but one thing's for sure. Despite being John's son, according to the books, Jamie has still not formed a normal relationship with his father, to say the least. But why exactly does John Dutton despise his own son? If I was born into a family that favored my other siblings over me all the time, I'd be absolutely gutted. So it comes as no surprise that Jamie always felt left out, especially since his father, from the very beginning, favored Beth and Casey. It doesn't seem fair, since the two had been nothing but reluctant participants in the family business, while Jamie had been loyal to the family since the start, to the point that when his fiancé asked him to choose between her or the family, Jamie chose the family. Despite his unwavering loyalty, the only thing John Dutton ever did with Jamie was lose faith in him. Not once, but multiple times. That's just sad, isn't it? The show also hinted that John always felt disappointed in his son. When Jamie finally learns he's adopted, he confronts his father, to which John claims that he loves him, but the evidence points to the contrary. In fact, to prove his loyalty to the family, Jamie murdered his biological father. Hardcore, right? But sadly, it still wasn't enough to win his father's love and approval. To add fuel to the fire, John was enraged when he learned that Jamie is the reason his daughter's life was ruined. This leads me to probably the most important contributing factor to this story. Beth despises Jamie, and I don't blame her. The two are not your classic sibling duo. Even I don't have the most lovable relationship with my siblings, but at least I don't go around telling them to end their lives. If you're wondering, this is not an exaggeration. In a heated Season 2 exchange, Beth actually tells Jamie to kill himself just before she started throwing punches at him and dragging him around by his hair. If you're still wondering why Jamie is so despised, his possible interference in his sister and her lover Rip's relationship might just be the answer. Owing to that conflict, the two have often tangled in Yellowstone, with Beth resorting to verbally abusing her brother throughout the series. Since the Duttons' first introduction in the series, Jamie and his sister Beth have always been at each other's throats. They had very different ideas about morals, values, and the world in general, which contributed to their toxic relationship. Not to mention, Beth always knew that her brother was not of Dutton blood, so she was convinced that Jamie had evil in him and vowed to make his life a living hell. But the last nail in the coffin was when, in a flashback in Season 3, Beth found out that the sole reason she cannot have children was her very own brother. Yep, he snatched away her ability to reproduce, to bear children. When Beth got pregnant with Rip's baby as a teenager, she sought help from Jamie, as any sister would in desperate times. Jamie assisted her efforts to get an abortion. Here's the twist though. There was no way to get one without sterilization operation. But Beth was kept in the dark about the hysterectomy. It was undoubtedly the worst thing a brother could have done. Beth felt hurt, but mostly she felt betrayed. Surprisingly, Jamie felt indifferent. Despite taking so much away from Beth, he always acted confused about his sister's hatred towards him. According to him, he did nothing wrong, which explains why he was so ignorant about his sister's rage. Even though it's a bit of a stretch, I still think it's time Beth forgives her brother. I mean, it's high time Beth Dutton gets over her hatred for Jamie. Beth's feelings about Jamie have always revolved around nothing but hate, spite, and emasculation. All she does is bully Jamie, and Jamie takes it. But the dynamic between the two is exhausting and repetitive, and it needs to change. There's no evolution in their relationship, despite Jamie trying so hard to win Beth's forgiveness. I'm not saying that Beth should just get over it, because that's easier said than done, but I do believe that it should no longer define her relationship with Jamie. For instance, in a recent episode, Jamie spent his whole day trying to get his sister released from jail to save him and his family the public embarrassment of having the governor's daughter imprisoned. And how does Beth show her gratitude? By reminding Jamie that she has complete control over his life and threatening him that he may never see his kid again. If she can't have a kid, it makes sense to her that no one else should. Beth is also just plain toxic. She doesn't need vengeance and spite for the rest of her life. This is getting old now for Yellowstone viewers. The constant rivalry and tension between the two siblings isn't as fun anymore. It's annoying. Beth either needs to move on or murder Jamie so the rest of us can move on. Simple. Still, this still doesn't justify Jamie's horrible deed, to say the least. This reminds me, the adopted Dutton isn't an angel by any means. It's not surprising that Jamie isn't the most beloved character. I probably won't be able to cover all the reasons why Dutton is so widely hated, despite knowing that his biological father, Garrett Randall, was the reason behind the attack on John and Beth. Jamie kept it a secret. Not to mention, he accused Beth of being responsible for their mother's death. In one of his worst moments, he referred to his sister as cancer when it looked like John was dying from the disease. It's the body's cells so deformed they turn on the body itself, start feeding. Cancer doesn't have much foresight, so it kills its hosts, which kills it, he said. Cancer is suicide from the inside out. That's what you are, Beth. What a horrible thing to say to anyone, let alone your own sister. Jamie also provided why he was such a despicable character when he fell for Sarah Atwood's schemes in season 5. Was he really that naive? Nope. In fact, he seemed just fine bringing about the downfall of his father and his family's precious ranch by being dumb enough to trust Sarah. So that's it, folks. These were just some of the reasons why Jamie Dutton is so hated.